Welcome to the Systems Thinker Show. This is Season 5, Episode 37, and first off, I just want to give a huge shout out to our listeners in 32 countries around the world. It is absolutely incredible to have you with us. You know, we've set a big goal for ourselves. We're aiming to hit 10,000 subscribers by the end of 2025, and we could really use your support to get there. Right now, believe it or not, less than 43% of our listeners are actually subscribed. So if you're getting value from what we do here, please do us a huge favor and hit that subscribe or follow button. It makes a massive difference with the algorithm and lets us keep bringing you these best-in-class business cultural insights. Today, we are diving deep into one of the 48 laws of power that is just critical for improving team performance, Robert Greene's Law 29, plan all the way to the end.
So let's start with a question we've all asked ourselves. Why do so many brilliant plans fail? You've been there, right? A project kicks off with all this energy, all this promise. Everyone's excited. But somewhere along the way, it just falls apart. It hits unexpected roadblocks, loses steam, and what started as a brilliant idea ends in total chaos. It's a super common frustration, and today we're going to unpack the antidote.
All right, here's our game plan for this explainer. First, we're going to look at the real danger of those unfinished plans. Then, we'll get into the heart of Greene's Law of Foresight. After that, we'll see it in action with a company that literally went from chaos to mastery. We'll even compare Greene's ideas with some other big-name gurus. And finally, we'll pull it all together into a final blueprint that you can actually use.
Okay, first up, the peril of unfinished plans. This is all about the huge, often hidden cost of building a reactive culture. You know, a place where your team is always playing defense instead of offense.
And this, right here, is the trap so many teams fall into. They get stuck in this endless cycle of firefighting. One crisis pops up, they put it out, and then another one starts. This kind of fragmented work leads to derailed projects, priorities that seem to shift with the wind, and worst of all, team morale just plummets. Everyone's working their tails off, but it feels like they're just spinning their wheels because there's no clear, steady vision of the finish line. It's exhausting, and it's just not effective. So, how in the world do you break free from that exhausting cycle? Well, that brings us right to our second section, Greene's Law of Foresight. This is a really powerful philosophy of complete end-to-end planning. Here it is, Law 29 in a nutshell. Plan all the way to the end. Now, the idea itself sounds simple, but it's incredibly profound. See, real success doesn't just come from a great start. It comes from a plan that has been thought through meticulously, from that very first step all the way to the final outcome and even what comes after. It's kind of like seeing the entire chessboard before you even make your first move. So if we break this down, it's really about 4 key actions. First, you have to think through the entire plan, not just the exciting beginning. Second, you actively anticipate what could go wrong. You're not being a pessimist, you're being a strategist. Third, you prepare contingency plans for those obstacles. And then, once you've done all that hard work up front, you can act with total confidence, ready to navigate any challenge that comes your way with ease.
Now, this all sounds great in theory, but what does it actually look like in the real world? Let's jump into a case study and look at the transformation of a company called Apex Manufacturing.
Okay, so Apex was totally stuck in that firefighting culture we were just talking about. To break out of it, they took 4 very clear steps. First, the leadership team fully committed to Law 29. Second, they tested the idea on a single, high-stakes pilot project. Third, they used the success of that pilot to start fostering a much wider cultural shift, moving the focus from short-term heroics to predictable, steady progress. And finally, of course, they measured the heck out of the results. And the results? They were pretty amazing. In just 1 year, employee engagement scores shot up by 23%. That shows you the direct link between having a clear plan and how your team feels. When people are actually confident in the vision, they stop just trying to survive the day and start actively contributing to the future. And that internal confidence, it translated directly to external results. Their on-time delivery performance jumped from a respectable 82% to an incredible 96%. Now, this wasn't just some number on a spreadsheet. It was a huge cultural victory. It boosted the company's reputation and really reinforced the team's pride in their new discipline. But hey, this isn't just about one manufacturing company. This principle is universal. Check this out. 68% of manufacturers are now using AI planning tools specifically to improve their culture. In the supply chain world, 60% of executives say end-to-end planning is the #1 driver of trust. And even in science, research grant proposals that are really well planned are 45% more likely to get approved. The evidence is overwhelming. Planning all the way to the end works.
Now, Robert Greene's approach is obviously powerful, but it's not the only game in town. So let's pivot for a second and see how his philosophy stacks up against some of the other giants of change management. So here's the central tension. Greene's Law 29 is really all about foresight and strategic control. It's about seeing the end and making sure you get there. Other gurus, think petersenge or John Kotter, they put way more emphasis on adaptation, on systems thinking, and on mobilizing people. You could say one is about commanding the path, while the other is about building the path together.
Let's look at a few examples. So you have petersenge, who would focus on turning the whole organization into a learning machine, valuing adaptability way more than a rigid outcome. Then there's John Kotter, who's all about mobilizing people and getting buy-in for change. And someone like Linear Johnson would focus on installing a management operating system to build discipline and visibility. So where Greene's Law is a pure power strategy, Johnson's is more of an operating system for the whole company.
When you zoom out, you see these are really two different philosophies at play. Greene's approach is all about influence, using that incredible foresight to gain control and an advantage. The other gurus, they tend to focus on infrastructure, on building resilient systems, good habits, and strong teams. It's really the difference between gaining confidence through foresight versus gaining confidence through discipline. So, which is it? Is influence better than infrastructure? Is control more important than adaptation? Let's bring it all home and build our final blueprint. Well, the answer, as you might have guessed, is that you absolutely need both. Greene's powerful long-range vision is essential. But here's the thing, a grand vision with no infrastructure to actually support it is doomed to collapse. And on the flip side, having great systems and processes without a compelling vision, well, that just leads to aimless drifting. And that really brings us to our final, most important thought. The truly great organizations, the ones that last, they find a way to harmonize these two powerful ideas. They blend Greene's strategic influence with the robust infrastructure that the change gurus talk about. And when you do that, you create a culture where discipline, foresight, and resilience all come together. And that, right there, is the path to sustained excellence. For any additional information, please feel free to reach out via our website at www.karaswininnovations.com. Also, be sure to check out our other podcast, The Continuous Improvement Lab. And finally, a very special thank you to our executive producer and founder, Linear Johnson. Thanks so much for listening.